Oliver is a town near the south end of the Okanagan Valley in the southern interior of British Columbia. It is located along the Okanagan River between Osoyoos and Okanagan Falls. In 2002, on her Golden Jubilee tour of Canada, Queen Elizabeth II gave the royal assent that Oliver was the wine capital of Canada. Oliver has a current estimated population of about 5,900. Local industries include grapes, wine production, fruit growing, agri-tourism, ranching, and recreational sports such as golf, hiking trails, and biking trails.
The people of the Sioux Nation have lived in the South Okanagan for millennia and traditionally moved to follow seasonal food sources. The first European immigrants came around 1811 when fur traders arrived. Oliver began as a settlement for unemployed veterans of the First World War as part of the Soldier Settlement Act of 1917. A post office, board of trade, and the first official business, a general store, started in 1921. In 1922, electrical power was brought to Oliver by the West Kootenay Power and Light Company. The BC government administered the area until 1945. In 1990, the community's municipal incorporation was upgraded to a town.
In 1923, the Kettle Valley Railway built a station in Oliver with rails to transport fruit north to Penticton. In 1931, it was leased to the Canadian Pacific Railway. The last train went through Oliver in 1977. The station now sits slightly north of its original site and houses the Oliver Tourism Association and Visitor Center. Oliver has hot, dry summers, June through August, with an average highs between 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees Celsius on sunny days. Fall, September through November, is mild with autumn colors, cooler temperatures, and increasing rain and snow towards November. Winter, December through February, cold but manageable, with average lows around freezing, with some snow averaging just 18 inches or 46 centimeters. Record lows are around minus 20 or Fahrenheit or minus 29 Celsius. Spring, March through May, increasing sunshine and transition to warmer weather. Most rain falls in late spring and early summer.
Oliver has a few hockey teams, notably the Junior B North Okanagan Knights in the Okanagan Shuswap Conference of the Kootenay International Junior Hockey League. Their home games are played at the Norval Center in Armstrong, an indoor arena that serves as the hub for their KIJHL games. The driving distance from Armstrong to Oliver is about 175 kilometers or 109 miles. Drive time is around 2 hours and 40 minutes.
During the late 1920s, the Canadian government was working towards the completion of the Prairie Airmail Service, which was accomplished in January of 1930. Dan McLean was appointed on April 1st, 1929 as Inspector of Western Airways for the Civil Aviation Branch of the Department of Defense. Later in 1929, he was in charge of a survey to extend the airmail route from Alberta to Vancouver. McLean personally flew the possible routes from Calgary to Vancouver. In the company of Squadron Leader J. H. Tudhope, they flew from Vancouver to Lethbridge through the Crow's Nest Pass. McLean chose the southernmost route for the planned Trans-Canada Airway because of climate, terrain, density of settlement, but also because it was less costly for airfield construction.
McLean contacted the Oliver Board of Trade about his intention to locate an intermediate airfield near the village. He asked for the board's help to find a suitable site. A site was located 1/2 mile south of the village. Land was purchased and later passed to the federal government. On October 8, 1932, the federal government passed the Unemployment Relief Scheme. Single men would be employed to build airfields across the country. These men would receive room and board, medical aid, clothes, tobacco, and 20 cents per day. In September 1934, John A. Wilson was Canadian Controller of Civil Aviation under the Department of Defense. Wilson inspected the sites of the new airfields in southern BC. He gave the Oliver site approval to start construction under the relief scheme. The go-ahead for the Oliver Airfield was announced in January 1935.
The May 1935 edition of the Oliver News reported that officials from the Department of Defense were at the site. A relief camp was to be built immediately at the airfield. The camp would accommodate 125 men who would prepare the field largely by hand with shovels, picks, and wheelbarrows. The site was about 80 acres. It was constructed to accommodate 3 runways. The project took 8,000 man-days of work, 150,000 cubic yards of material, and 17 tons of rock were moved by horse and wagon. The first group of 18 men and an assistant engineer arrived from Kelowna and Oyama at the end of 1935. By 1936, the relief program had ended. The Department of Transport contracted construction companies for final development. The contractors used machinery to hasten the completion, which occurred mid-year 1937.
The grand opening and air show occurred on the Labor Day weekend of September 1937. The Department of Transport Lockheed 12A CFCCT had been expected, but failed to make it from Lethbridge. Weather prevented other aircraft from attending. However, 6 visiting aircraft flew in, among them a Corbin Jr. Ace, CFAOM Miss Vernon from Vernon, CF-BGZ, a Fleetwings F-401 Seabird, a Consolidated Mining and Smelting Company aircraft flown by William Archibald from Trail, a Fairchild 24 flown by R. Carter Guest, the District Inspector of Air Regulations for BC, as well as a Buell sedan NC 5311 from Tacoma in Washington State, flown by Bert Eckstein.
An exhibition of aerobatics was given by Miss Rolly Moore of Vancouver, a member of the Flying Seven, a group of BC women who were pilots. Moore gave her performance in Home Oil's Fleet 2 aircraft. The finale was performed by Batman, Cecil Mackenzie of Vancouver. He went aloft in the Buell Air Sedan. At 8,000 feet, he bailed out. With metal wings attached to his body, he soared through a series of maneuvers designed to impress his audience. At 1,000 feet, he opened his parachute, but missed his intended landing site in the middle of Oliver Airfield. Instead, he landed at the cemetery 2 miles from the airfield.
Since the official opening of the Oliver Airfield as an intermediate field on the Trans-Canada Airway, further improvements were made to its usability early in 1938. A floodlighting system to assist in night landings and a radio communications facility were installed and manned by 2 operators. A rotating beacon producing 1.5 million candle power was mounted on a 40-foot tower, which was visible for 10 to 15 miles. Oliver became one of only 2 airfields between Lethbridge and Vancouver to have this equipment. The other was Cranbrook. The revolving beacon provided a visual aid to aircraft flying the route at night. The beacon was operational after July 1st, 1938.
The Trans-Canada Airlines westbound flight passed over Oliver at 4:30 a.m. and eastbound at 7:30 p.m. The radio communications office was also manned 24 hours a day by 3 TCA employees. Early in 1938, Yukon Southern Air Transport began a working agreement with Ginger Coot Air Service and began operating an airmail route from Fort St. John, first from Ashcroft and later from Vancouver. The 2 companies would later merge and become part of the Canadian Pacific Airlines.
In 1936, the Department of Transport began the construction of its Green 1 Airway from Vancouver to Lethbridge, building a series of radio range stations, each which emitted 4 directional sound signals, 2 of which were aligned to the airway. The first station was Vancouver in 1937. Others followed at Princeton, Grand Forks, Cranbrook, Cowley, and Lethbridge. The station at Grand Forks was improperly located. 2 new stations were installed at higher transmitting points at Carmi and Crescent Valley. This relocated the airway north of its original route. It then passed nearer Penticton and not Oliver. The Penticton Herald of September 15, 1938, reported the Carmi station would be in operation by the end of September 1938.
Meanwhile, Trans-Canada Airlines had made regular use of Oliver during the fall of 1938 when fog prevented landing at Vancouver. On Friday, September 30th, 1938, CFTCH, a Lockheed 14 Super Electra, landed on Oliver's gravel runway. The non-stop flight from Winnipeg's Steveston Field to Vancouver had been unable to continue because of fog. It landed to await suitable conditions. In late spring of 1939, Yukon Southern Air Transport found its Barclay Grow T8P-1 that was being used between Vancouver, Fort St. John, and Whitehorse was underused 2 or 3 days a week while in Vancouver. The company decided to offer a weekly service to the Okanagan Valley, linking Vancouver to Oliver using its Barclay Grow Yukon King or the Yukon Queen. Yukon Southern Air then stationed a single-engine aircraft at Oliver to shuttle passengers up and down the Okanagan Valley, connecting with the Barclay Grow service at Oliver.
Yukon Southern pilot Sheldon Luck recalls that he often flew the Barclay Grow from Vancouver to Oliver. There, he would change aircraft. Then, using a Beechcraft Model 17 Staggerwing Beech, he would continue the flight to Kelowna or Vernon. Other sources say that a Waco cabin biplane was also at Oliver for a time on Yukon Southern's Okanagan shuttle. The service ended after only 6 weeks of operation because of economics.
Oliver's elevated place of importance as a major air terminal was about to change with the relocation of the East-West Airway. After a new radio range station was built at Carmi, Penticton quickly moved to establish its own airport in order to accommodate the possible requirements of Trans-Canada Airlines. Traffic at Oliver decreased after the opening of the Penticton Airfield and the moving of the Green One Airway to Penticton. TCA closed its company radio station at Oliver February 10, 1941. The equipment and staff were moved to Penticton. The powerful beacon remained at Oliver, as well as the floodlights for night landings.
During the war years, Oliver saw occasional use by RCAF aircraft. At one time, 2 Lysanders were parked on the field. On another occasion, a Hurricane. In mid-September 1943, RCAF Bolingbrook, number 9032, made a series of overhead passes of the Oliver Airfield. This was part of a survey to record airfields in the area. Flying Officer George Williamson landed several times at Oliver in 1944 and 45 in an RCAF Grumman G-21 Goose. He reported that the airfield was not always maintained. Long grass grew on the runway, until someone cut and baled it during haying season. In approximately 1942, it was listed as RCAF Aerodrome Oliver, British Columbia. The aerodrome was listed with 3 runways.
Today, Oliver's Airport is within walking distance of downtown. The Oliver Airport is maintained jointly by Oliver Public Works staff and by the South Okanagan Flying Club. The Oliver Municipal Airport has a single 3,355-foot paved runway. Airport activity includes 2 commercial helicopter businesses, air ambulance transfers, law enforcement, and search and rescue. The province uses the airport as a staging base for helicopters and personnel responding to wildfires.